Right, so let's settle. We are live on X Spaces, on YouTube, on Facebook, and of course, around the world also at myjoyonline.com. Now, the state of the Ghanaian economy is revealing itself, at least until the 11th of March, where we hear the 2025 budget presentation. We are getting to understand the economy inherited by the John Mahama administration. And this afternoon, the president is hailing the national dialogue, which is ongoing, as a pivotal moment for Ghana's future, being held under the theme, Resetting Ghana, Building the Ghana We Want. The dialogue commenced this morning, bringing together key stakeholders to craft lasting solutions to the country's economic challenges. We'll hear from President Mahama shortly. We'll also hear from the Finance Minister, Stakeholder, giving us a hint on what is to come in the 2025 budget. But I can take you live to the Accra International Conference Center, where my colleague George Biafe, editor with Joy Business, is stationed, and he's interacting with some key individuals. Right now, he's speaking to the General Secretary of the NDC himself, a former Deputy Finance Minister, on the National Economic Dialogue. Let me take you live to the AICC now.
Thank you very much, Elton Brobe, and I'm live with me, the General Secretary of the Administration of Governing Party, Fifi Fiavi Kwete. Honorable, I'm right to call you by that name. It's been a while, and how have you been doing?
I've been good. It's been hectic, and also at the same time challenging and exciting at the same time.
For you, being here, the presentations, the speeches, what has been the revelations, or what has been the takeaway for you in occupying a very critical position in this governing party that you're managing this economy and the country as well?
Let me begin by greeting all your many viewers who have always been very loyal and faithful to you. I'm happy to be here. I would say I came into this conversation with a hope that first of all we will have as many views as possible in order for us to be able to give us let's call it a rich perspective that will be able to enable us to move forward, and two, the ability to take decisions that will bring about real sustainability and real not just, our problem traditionally has been that we take steps forward, then we take steps back, and we need to reach a stage where we take off in a manner in which we no more have the kind of shall I call it ups and downs that we have had with our economy. So I would say to that extent, it's an expectation that somehow not just that for the excellency, because I know as a person he's got a resolve, he wants it done well, but to understand it's not just also about government, it's about the totality of all of us making a determination that listen, let's get this going and never anymore relent. And to that extent, I think the very final statement made by the Minister of Finance when he addressed the plenary to say that we need to have the discipline. Honestly, that is the very secret. If only we can have that discipline, first at the level of the government, and two, at the level of all of us, at the level of the broader society, I'm sure we should be able to, to move forward.
Honorable, some have argued that the political party is the biggest challenge or the biggest elephant in the room. How willing is the party, if I can use that expression, to support the president and this administration when it comes to fiscal discipline? Because the question has always been the political will, and often the pressure comes from the party in governance in terms of have to satisfy the grassroots, have to satisfy those who worked hard to bring you to power.
I agree that the politics has been the main issue. I would say if you watch this campaign that we just had, we could have decided to go extremes in terms of the promises made, but we restrained largely. For example, there were so many things that normal opposition parties do. Impossible promises that if you truly have to implement them, you destabilize the economy. We restrain ourselves as much as possible from making those promises. I would say that's a good beginning. That's how it starts. And I can tell you, it's not that there was no pressure. There's a lot of pressure coming from our supporters and from even people who are supposed to be official, who say, go, promise this, promise that, promise that. And we kept saying that, no, we can't. We can't continue doing the same thing over and over and expect them out of this country. And I would say that discipline to be able to say, no, we will not go gung-ho as people were urging us to do. Because unfortunately, the understanding that we have in our part of the world is make any promises and win power. At the end of the day, when you win power, things will take care of themselves. And I think that's just it's irresponsible, it's unpatriotic, but it comes from a desperation for power. And somehow the whole conversation about how to deal with this desperation for power is one that Ghana must have. Until we have a real conversation about it, trust me, these problems will continue. Because the right MPP is going into position. Trust me. If MPP continues according to what MPP we know, they are going to get even more desperate. And when they get more desperate, they are going to be making all kinds of promises that they know deep down, if they have to come to power to implement, it will just wreck the economy. But they will.
Back to my question about the commitment. I know the pressure that you are...
Sorry. That's explain to you about the fact that we restrain a lot of that pressure, even in opposition. That's the beginning. If you're able to, in opposition where there's a lot of pressure, you're able to hold and say, listen, we will not go according to that. That helps that in government, you are able to still do the same thing with your people and say, no, we showed a lot of restraint, even in opposition. Now that we're in government, this is not the moment for us to be able to start going gango. Let me give a few examples. For example, certain decisions need to be taken now in power. Ordinarily, somebody would have said, you know what, you promised to do this and you promised to do that. Let's say, for example, we promised, TASCA, for instance. Sure. For some of it, those of them that we really thought through carefully, we definitely will be able to implement them. Why? Because we believe there are other ways in which you'll be able to get revenue that can make up for the balance. Because some of them honestly were just nuisance taxes. How much really were we getting from e-levy? How much really were we getting for betting tax? Not significant. But at the end of the day, what you do is that you rather affect the country in ways that you should not be. There are other areas where, for example, a lot of monies were literally wasting away, and we've not been able to plug those loopholes and get the system to be compliant to help us get revenue. There's also a lot of places where we literally cause a lot of wastage in the system. So I'm saying, as a whole, we are encouraging the finance minister together with his team to look at the whole of the balance and come to cabinet and make that proposal, and we'll be able to support in order for us to move forward.
You're going to give the president, the minister, your full support, because as I said earlier on, that often the pressure comes from the president.
Yeah, but then that's a good thing. If you have your general secretary who was a former deputy finance minister, it's not the same anymore. Why? Because I'm not one who is just going to push policy at the expense of the economy. There must be a balance. Because at the end of the day, if the economy collapses, the policies cannot be successful. So that's why it's always an advantage if you have somebody with my background as the chief executive of the party. It holds down. We are able to say, no, there's a limit to how much you can go for the politics. The economy must be right as well, because the two must go together.
But are you surprised with the personalities who made it here? Because initially there were concerns about whether you'd be able to get the right consensus for this program even to go on. We've seen former government officials who are here. Are you surprised by the caliber of people who made it here? Not just your government, your party faithfuls, if I can use that expression, but even the business community as well.
I'm very, very, very impressed. For me, it speaks to the fact that there is a broad consensus that this country must be number one, that this is the country we have. Regardless of wherever we come from, we need to find solutions. I think it's also a mood of the country that is looking for answers and solutions, and for different people to be able to bring that on board. And I think to an extent also, it's actually a reflection again of the leadership of GM. GM has a very, that kind of leadership that tends to bring on board. Even people, you know him, but he's not a very confrontational person. He's somebody pretty open to ideas. He's humble to listen to people. So I think people check that kind of leadership and say, you know what, let's go, let's bring ideas. We are certain that he will be able to listen to these ideas and see how far we can go.
He gave its commitment to fiscal discipline. CU, NDC party, are you going to give him all the support?
Absolutely. I'm actually in the very forefront on ensuring that we do it right, because I believe it's not a short-term thing. It should be a long-term thing. I know it's always an issue of politically, you look at it, what it is that can give me benefit right away. But if we are looking for success for the country, we need to be looking a little more medium term. And as a general secretary of this party, I can tell you 100% I'm behind not just him as president, but also behind the finance minister, because I've been there. So I know exactly what it takes. I know why it needs to succeed. So therefore, as a party, we will continue backing them in order to take decisions that will be good for the country.
Still on this issue, but moving a little bit away, how are you managing this challenge? There are a lot of people who thought that, Honorable, we did a lot of work that brought this party into this office. We've not been rewarded with the required positions that deserve. There have been demonstrations and all that. How is the party managing to understand that if the economy is fixed, everybody benefits? Or how is the party dealing with the challenge where people thought that we did a lot of work, but they are not being rewarded with the required positions and all those things?
It's never going to be easy, as you know. I mean, so many people, and the positions are not that many. So what you can rather work on is to first ensure that first those who have been in place are being told to do what is right in order for them to be good ambassadors. You also are looking at the possibilities of generally performing in a manner that everybody will be able to see the benefit of what the victory has brought. And to the extent that it's going well, there are different ways in which different people can find opportunities. Listen, I mean, a lot of people in Ghana do not have access to. In fact, Ghana still largely remains an informal economy. About 80-85% of this country remains a informal economy. It tells you that by and large, economic activity largely is not found within the formal sector, but the informal sector. So we want to encourage a lot of our supporters to say, listen, there are opportunities that still could be found. You don't always have to be employed in government before you can find an opportunity. You know, so there are private businesses that people can do. There are other things. So it's about encouraging a bit of that, opening up of our own understanding that it's not all going to be in one sector alone that people can find opportunity. So that's where continue.
A huge headache for you.
It's difficult. It's very difficult. It's difficult because you understand. I mean, everybody expects that once victory has come, we should all be able to get access to. When people say we want to get the benefit, the fruit of the victory, unfortunately, it's not so much about the broad economy being good, but much more like direct something for me, which we can understand. I mean, but we also let people appreciate that everybody cannot get it at a go. This is not the first time we've won power. I mean, in the past when we won power, especially when you work hard and you're able to. After 4 years, the people feel you've done well enough. They give you another opportunity. It creates opportunity to be able to have other people also have their turn and so on. So I'm sure the most important thing which we keep urging them is that the most important, let's make sure we do what is right and keep faith with the people of Ghana. If you can keep faith with the people of Ghana, a longer opportunity is given, and then other people who today do not have would also be able to have.
Final words for Ghanaians, because there's a national conversation. There's a national government that needs to be built. There are some who also feel that they are being alienated because they are not part of your party. They are not holding their cards. I know this party stands before governance about this issue about jobs and all. What is the communication to them that it's rather Ghana first? And if I'm right, I know you might disagree with then the political party. How do we build that national consensus to get everybody on board?
I totally agree. I agree that the country must always be number one. I mean, before any political party. I totally agree on that. And I say that actually, even in my own party programs, I keep repeating that all the time, that it can never be party ahead of country. It has to always be country ahead of the party. Yeah, but then what I would say is that to build the country we want, we all must appreciate that it's not always down to just government. And sometimes when you listen to our conversation, it's almost as if we are helpless, and it's only if government does not do, we cannot achieve anything. I totally disagree with that. I believe that there are still a lot that can be done regardless of the constraints that comes as a result of government inability to be able to provide all the things that we need. Solutions can be found, individuals, in fact, there are individual companies that are facing difficulty, but still every single year are being able to expand their opportunity, grow their businesses. And I'm saying the same thing can be done at every level. At the informal level, people can still grow, and that all contributes to Ghana becoming better.
Honorable, I said it was the last, but this will be my last question as well. And looking at where you're coming from the finance background and all the rest, your friends in the MPP think that you are not being fair to them in terms of your assessment of the state of the economy. They're talking about the Agenda 111, they left money for it, even about the debt situation as well. What do you get? What's your response to the concern that there's a deliberate attempt to paint them black and also justify maybe your inability to undertake certain promises by your party?
If you ask me, the State of the Nation address by the president actually was very, very charitable. Trust me, if the roles were reversed and Nana Akufo-Addo or Bawumia had the opportunity to present that State of the Nation address after inheriting the kind of catastrophic economy we have, it would have been an absolute massacre of the NDC. John Mahama, as you know him, is a nice man. So he really tried very hard not to go too hard on them. MPP should actually be happy. If I were president and I had to present their State of the Nation address, I would have absolutely destroyed them. They should actually be thankful that John Mahama, being who he is, actually was charitable to them. Listen, the state of the economy as it is, there's no missing words about it. I actually would say, let even independent people go into those numbers. You as a journalist, you in the what you call in the media, do your own independent and put out the statement and the analysis as they are. There's no exaggeration of the difficulty. The loss that they suffered in the last election itself should tell you the extent to which the people of Ghana feel about how you manage the economy. This loss was not on the back of NDC having had what you call done. No, it is because the people of Ghana saw the manner in which MPP conducted the affairs of the country. And the economy is always number one. And the economy is what the individuals felt. So if you are getting angry because we are stating the true state of the affair, look at your numbers in parliament. Your numbers in parliament should tell you exactly how the people of Ghana felt about how the whole economy was managed. And stop getting angry with the NDC and appreciate that the people of Ghana on their own have passed a verdict. And that verdict is that you have been an absolute disaster as far as the management of the economy is concerned and the way you manage the country. So this is the moment for them to just remain humble instead of getting angry. If I were them, over the next, let's say, up to June, I actually will not be making a lot of noise. I would rather be quiet. Allow the country to...
You think their side should be here because the situation is not presented?
I think they should be quiet. They should be quiet. I mean, this... Sometimes you feel they want to speak back because there's a pressure on them from their supporters. You need to speak back. But sometimes it's best to just make it very moderate because the country at the moment is not very willing to listen to you, NPP. They've seen 8 years of your rule. And at the end of that period, what they've seen has been nothing short of abysmal performance. So just relax. Allow the country to listen to what it is that is happening at the moment. If over time the country starts feeling and say, oh, NDC, instead of telling us what you are going to do, you are focusing too much on the MPP, then the country itself will start to react. But the moment for them to be, as it were, getting upset because the truth is being said about the economy, I don't think is the right way. If I were them, honestly, I would just take it low. I would not really be talking. In fact, I did the same thing. In 2017, when we lost, I told a lot of my colleagues in NDC, I was not going to, as it were, be jumping into criticism of the MPP. Give them time. They're just a new government. Let them settle. Over time, the truth will get told. I mean, like the real state will, things will settle and the country will get to know. If NDC is exaggerating today, it won't be long. The country will realize, oh, NDC, you are exaggerating. Time will tell. So just relax. But at the moment, they are too much in a hurry. And you can see from the very way they are conducting themselves in parliament. I keep telling my friend Afenyo-Markin that, listen, just relax. You are too much in a hurry. You can't make the sun rise when it's not 6 a.m. When it's 3 a.m. and you are trying to make the sun rise, you are wasting your time. Just relax. When that moment comes and the country is ready to listen to you, it will be. At the moment the country is not ready to listen to you.
Honorable, I appreciate your time so much. I know we'll come back to you again to talk on several national issues and the economy issues abroad, and have a great day. But that has been the General Secretary of the governing NDC party getting his thought on the economy, issues around governance, and also the bit about dealing with concerns from their grassroots, and actually responding to some of the issues highlighted at the press conference a while ago from Parliament, addressed by the former Minister of Finance, Dr. Mohamed Amin Adam. Elton, if there are no questions, then I can use or borrow the phrase of Joe Latte, the renowned sports broadcaster. That over to you.
No, I just want to find out, so what is happening now, George? Are they in some of the sessions? What are some of the issues that are on the table?
So Elton, we're having the breakout session as we speak right now. Unlike other conferences where these breakout sessions are open, this is more like an invitation-only breakout session. So you have a situation where if you were not invited to be in some of these breakout sessions, be it a business person, even a government official, you cannot have access to it. There's been one already on the fiscal issues. I think it's done already. There's one that happened recently about the private sector development. And there's another one going on about infrastructure as well. Earlier on, I spoke to Setekba, and he gave me the assurance that whatever recommendation that is going to come out of this meeting would be factored in the 2025 budget, despite the timing as well. So the concerns that this is going to be a normal talk shop, that is not the situation, Elton, on the ground. That wouldn't be the practice on the ground.
I'm actually looking forward to that presentation on good governance, corruption, and procurement. That I know that Dr. Akwete and Franklin Kujo are scheduled to deliver a paper on that. Is that happening today or tomorrow?
I had to check, but I saw Dr. Akwete around as well. So I'll try and see whether I can catch him after the session to get his thought on all these things in terms of an interview. Maybe it won't be live, but we'll still get that interview and bring it to you guys in the office as well, Elton.
Right, thank you very much, George Yafe, and he is stationed at the Accra International Conference Center. He's Joy News Business Editor, bringing us, covering this national economic dialogue for us. Now, remember this morning, the opening ceremony took place, and we heard from the Finance Minister and then, of course, President John Mahama. Now, for President Mahama, he sees the national economic dialogue as a crucial opportunity to reshape and transform the country's economy. Listen.
We are not here merely to recount our struggles, nor are we here to resign ourselves to economic stagnation. We are here to seek solutions, to adopt strategies that will put us on a sustainable path, growth trajectory, and to ensure that we build an economy that works for every Ghanaian. For me, this is not just another policy discussion. It is an urgent call to action. A crucial moment for us as stakeholders to unite with purpose and resolve the challenges that face us. We've gathered here to create a powerful platform where government officials, policymakers, business leaders, economists, industry experts, development partners, and other key figures come together to shape the future of our nation. The insights, diverse perspectives, and actionable recommendations that emerge from these discussions must transcend theoretical frameworks and drive real, impactful decisions that will guide our national economy forward. Throughout our engagement, we will focus on practical strategies to restore macroeconomic stability and pave the way for long-term economic transformation. This includes developing policies that stimulate growth and create sustainable job opportunities for our rapidly growing population. We'll also examine the structural reforms that are necessary to unleash the private sector's potential and make it truly the engine of growth that drives job creation and innovation. Strengthening economic governance institutions will be a key topic of discussion, ensuring transparency and accountability at all levels of government, while taking decisive action to combat corruption and other things that hinder our progress. It is vital that as we move towards a more prosperous future, and that the economic gains we achieve are distributed equitably, leaving no one behind and fostering inclusive growth that benefits every sector of society, from the most marginalized communities to the industrial leaders of tomorrow. This dialogue is a defining moment, and our decisions must set the course for a more resilient, prosperous, and equitable economy for generations to come. When I assumed office barely 2 months ago, I inherited an economy that was in a state of deep crisis, one that was weighted down by numerous challenges. The economy was reeling from unprecedented levels of debt, soaring inflation, high unemployment, declining levels of foreign direct investment, and low business confidence. The financial struggles that our nation is facing have not arisen overnight. They have been the result of several years of financial mismanagement, irresponsible borrowing, reckless spending, and weak leadership that failed to address the underlying structural issues within our economy. This pervasive mismanagement culminated in Ghana's defaults on its debt obligations. This marked a devastating milestone for our dear country, spawning a cascade of economic problems that have severely impacted our people. Huge fiscal deficits, excessive government expenditures, and overall financial imprudence have compromised our economic resilience. Credible rating agencies such as Moody's, Fitch, Standard & Poor's have all downgraded our international credit rating consecutively, leading to capital flight and a loss of investor confidence and trust. The Bank of Ghana, instead of serving as an independent monetary authority, became a financing tool for government's excesses, fueling inflation and devaluing our currency. The cost of living has skyrocketed to unbearable levels, leaving families grappling with the inability to afford even the most basic necessities. At the same time, inflation erodes the value of wages and savings, pushing many into a cycle of poverty. Meanwhile, the ill-considered collapse of indigenous banks significantly reduced indigenous presence in Ghana's financial and banking space.
And we're going to spend some time to analyze everything that President Mahama told Ghanaians this morning at the Accra International Conference Center. Plus, we also heard from the finance minister, giving us a glimpse of what is to come in the 2025 budget that will be presented next week. Well, on the other side of the political divide, the minority in parliament, as the MPP, they've also been speaking about the economy. Former finance minister, Dr. Amin Adam, has blamed the high inflation experienced under the MPP administration to global shocks triggered by the COVID-19 pandemic. Speaking at a news conference in Parliament dubbed the true state of the economy, that's according to the MPP, he argued that imported inflation was the primary driver behind Ghana's inflation surge to over 54%. However, he maintained that the Akufo-Addo-led administration efforts to reduce it to 23 were commendable, insisting they managed to keep inflation in a single digit for 2 consecutive years.
Higher depreciation of the currency will automatically pass through to inflation in developing economies like Ghana. This means that inflation will also be higher, and the reverse also holds. Therefore, following the sharp depreciation of the cedi in 2022 by 50%, inflation was also going to rise sharply. This strong pass-through would naturally be a major challenge for the managers of the economy. By reducing the rate of depreciation to 19% in 2024, we have seen the muting of the pass-through to inflation, and these efforts cannot be glossed over. These efforts by the previous administration and the favorable results produced should be appreciated by President Mahama and improved for even better outcomes for our people. These effective efforts should not be disregarded and belittled for political reasons. As a country, we gain nothing by this kind of politics. Ladies and gentlemen, it is important to note that the rate of 6.5% depreciation we have witnessed year to date in 2025 is not informed by any sustainable strategies by the current government. The current disparity between inflation and the rate of depreciation is evidence of heavy central bank intervention on the market. The Mahama administration and the central bank can do this. But this is happening only because the previous administration left a gross international reserve of $8.9 billion by the end of 2024. This is being used to shore up the value of the cedi. The president deliberately, as you know, avoided this in his statement. Fellow Ghanaians, the true state of the nation is that exchange rate stability, which we saw before the end of 2024 and which has continued into the first quarter of this year, is not by any magic from the Mahama government. It is because the Akufo-Addo government left significant levels of international reserves for them. In addressing the issue of buffers created to support expenditure and maturing debt obligations, the president focused on the sinking fund as if it is the only source of buffers. The sinking fund is just one of our buffers. At each point in time, the government designates some accounts for buffer and for purposes of special payments. In the last 8 years, such accounts included the sinking fund, the Eurobond proceeds account, the IMF proceeds account, and the Treasury Main 2 account. For example, the IMF third review disbursement of $360 million was done on 2nd December 2024, but this was kept as buffer, part of which was used to pay coupons amounting to $346 million to Eurobond holders on 3rd January 2025. This was not done from the sinking fund. Similarly, in October 2024, we paid $520 million to our Eurobond holders for the first coupons and other fees. But again, this was not done from the sinking fund. How could we have done these payments if we didn't have buffers? Yet the president thinks that the only buffers we have is the sinking fund. The NPP also left significant amount of buffers, more than 5 billion Ghana cedis from the 2024 revenue collected by GRA in the Treasury Main 2 accounts, which the new government has used. Yet the president failed to talk about it and focus only on the sinking fund. On the financial sector, ladies and gentlemen, the president again played to the gallery by stating that, and I quote, "The financial sector continues to struggle despite the previous government reportedly spending 29.9 billion Ghana cedis on the financial sector clean-up exercise to date." Reportedly spending 29.9 billion Ghana cedis on the financial sector. Typical of NDC's usual sweeping statements, he made his conclusion.
Can you please put that off, please? Put it off, please.
It's done completely. If you can't control it, just please, let's go back.
On the financial sector, 29.9 billion Ghana cedis on the financial sector. Typical of NDC's usual sweeping statement.
Right, so let me pick a quick reaction from Parliament. Kwaku Asante is a parliamentary correspondent. So Kwaku, I understand that they did not take questions, but did they explain why they are not at this economic dialogue ongoing at the conference center?
All, Elton. In fact, these were some of the questions that were at the top of my mind as I sat there and listened to Dr. Mohamed Amin Adam, the former finance minister, address the media on what they term as the true state of the nation address. They did not take questions like you did say. I did check with a number of the leadership to try and get some indication. There was none. In fact, the minority leader himself, Alexander Afenyo-Markin, was not at this event, and so questions from him could not have been answered. But also the kind of indication I'm getting is that this may have been a national party decision that is way beyond the NPP parliamentary caucus. And so they are not willing to commit themselves. They really say if there are any questions that must be answered, it is the mother party. In fact, Haruna Mohammed, the Deputy General Secretary, was the only party executive who was in this meeting who also would not speak to journalists on these matters. So no explanations really as to why exactly the New Patriotic Party has not attended to this national economic dialogue. which will conclude tomorrow, except for them to come out and raise what they believe to be the Truth Nation address. They talked about how Mahama came to Parliament to do only propaganda, and that his claims about inflation and the economic state were not properly anchored, given that they still insist that there were COVID shocks, the war in Ukraine did leave a lot of issues with the economy. They talk about a sinking fund, and the claims that were made by John Dramani Mahama that only $64,000 and a little over 100 million Ghana cedi were left in both the cedi and the dollar accounts in the sinking fund. If you see that and say that that was not the entire argument. On the score of the energy sector, they have a demand and they have a big concern for John Dramani Mahama. They are asking him to fix the energy crisis. They say they don't want any excuses. At the time, Nana Danko Akufo-Addo was handing over power to John Dramani Mahama. Electricity supply was in good shape, and so they do not understand why John Dramani Mahama will seek to make some of these U-turns. Already, they also given the indication that in the new budget that will come, if the NDC government dare to introduce any new taxes, they will resist that and they will reject same because they believe Mahama intends and the NDC plans to hive off some taxes and then at the same time increase certain taxes like the communication service taxes on the telecommunication networks, which they believe will ultimately be borne by the customer. So that has been the low down here in Parliament. But the big concern that was swirling around in the room was that if the NDC had all these concerns around the economy, they should have perhaps attended the National Economic Dialogue and put it across. They did not. They've not gotten answers yet exactly why they did not. Okay.
Thank you very much, Kwaku. So just like Senchi, the MPP will not be part of this National Economic Dialogue currently underway at the Accra International Conference Center. The opening ceremony was done by President Mahama this morning. Well, it's good time to bring in Dr. Daniel Amatei Enin. He is Chief Economist at PIED. Also joining us via Zoom, Professor Kwesi Prepra, Associate Professor of Finance at Andrews University, US of A. And of course, we'll also be speaking to the former Finance Minister and the incoming Deputy Finance Minister here as well on the show. So, Professor Enin and Professor Prepra, good afternoon and welcome to the Pulse.
Thank you.
Right. I know that for Professor Prepra, it's still morning where you are, so let me say good morning to you. Right, so we don't have Professor Prepra here. So, Professor Enin, you heard the Finance Minister this morning, you heard President Mahama. Few things that I picked from President Mahama's presentation, his call for collective responsibility, commitment to macroeconomic stability. He also updated us on the state of the economy, his criticism of the past financial mismanagement, as he calls it, strengthening the private sector, tackling corruption and wasteful expenditure, revitalizing the banking sector, industrialization, economic transformation, introduction of the 24-hour economy. These are some of the 10 key things that I picked from Mr. Mahama's presentation today. But overall, you think that the dialogue is the way to go, more especially when the NDC campaign on what it intends to do with the economy we have in the country?
Yeah, thank you very much. I think the move to have an economic dialogue and then bring on board views from experts and then industry players, it's recommendable, more importantly, taking into consideration the way forward, how his administration wanted to, reset the agenda. It's quite unfortunate. I would have loved or preferred having the minority participating and contributing and critiquing some of the policies that the government are outlined. But anyway, back to the substantive issue. So to me, it's a very good platform. What is more critical or important is factoring the ideas and the key recommendations into the national budget. That is very important. And government, exercising the commitment to be able to run with the key recommendations and outcomes that the various experts and the various critical stakeholders will put across. That is a major thing, so that it doesn't look like it's just a cosmetic, kind of platform to suggest that, we are interested in moving the country. But once it finds its way in the national budget, that will be the genesis of the commitment, and that will be the genesis for the risk-setting agenda of government. So that is the initial commit. I think His Excellency has also indicated that he's going to deal with corruption. It is a canker that over the period we'll be finding it very, very difficult to handle.
Right.
Now, what I realize is the loopholes and then the malfeasance in our public financial administration system. It is something that he needs to really work on. And to do that, the previous government started with digitalizing the economy, the cashless system, okay, the digitalization agenda. It should be something that you need to leverage on and take it to another level by ensuring that we run a cashless economy to minimize the human interface. So to me, I would like to see that path, to see government, towing that particular path. Now, another area which he indicated that to me it is very critical has to do with the macroeconomic stability. I must admit that the economy is recovering, taking into consideration where we came from at the time, somewhere 2022, where inflation was pegged around 54% and now 23%. Taking the macroeconomic indicators, there has been some improvement. The only area where respectfully I disagree with His Excellency during the State of the Nation is where he described the economy as an economy that is in massive crisis. Right. No, this is an economy that is recovering. If you walk us through the data and then the macroeconomic indicators, but there are some huge issues which he touched on, and I agree with him. That has to do with the high debt stock. I must admit that the previous government put in the mechanism. Of course, some of the mechanisms were not too friendly to domestic bondholders, but mechanisms were put in place to ensure that we have a sustainable debt levels. And he has demonstrated a commitment to walk that path and even do it better. To me, that is a very positive signal that he has demonstrated.
Yeah, Prof, if I may come in shortly, and I'll soon bring in Professor Prepra from the US over, who is also joining us. But Prof, just one quick issue on the issue of corruption. And I'm told that we're going to have a presentation by Professor Kwete and, of course, Mr. Kujo, Franklin Kujo of Imani, Ghana. But President Mahama took some time to talk about the procurement, platform that we have in the country, the Public Procurement Authority, and the fact that the law is clear as to what circumstances sole sourcing, for example, can be undertaken. And makes reference to some bizarre transactions that went on to the extent that some people got away with millions of Ghana cedis, even though they went to the procurement sector. And he described the procurement as having in government circles as one contributor to corruption, especially in the public sector. To what extent can we refine it to make it such that the nation will benefit more from it, rather than having a law that allows people to abuse it to their own benefit?
Thank you very much. I think we have, when it comes to legal framework, I think we have done so much, and I agree with you. But the issue has to do with the implementation,
right,
or the lacuna or the gap in the law where people have to, manipulate and take advantage of it. The very moment we have that loophole in the law about the sole sourcing, then you see political actors taking advantage. Even what is not to be sole sourcing, you see them veering to that particular path. We need to pay a recourse to that particular law and see how we can tighten it. Even in terms of procedure and implementation and transparency, let's revisit the procedure and the mechanism. That ought to be done. Okay. And then secondly, the final one, to be able to fight it, the various investigative institutions should look into it.
Right.
Those who are culpable should be made to face the law, and while they follow due process, at the end of the day, it could serve, as a deterrent for people who may be planning to do same. So I agree with you, the laws are there, but in terms of tightening the loopholes within the law, because this is a human setup, as a human organization, people try to see a gap within the law and take advantage and exploit it to their personal advantage, and that is what exactly is happening within our procurement system.
Right. It's good time for me to bring in Professor Kwesi Prempeh. Prof, good morning where you are, because it's still morning in the United States of America. So good morning and welcome to the Pulse, Prof.
Good morning and good afternoon to your viewers.
Right. So you heard the finance minister, you heard President Mahama. Now, lofty promises that we've been told, promises on the back of an economy struggling to even keep its head above water. And yet, there are so many promises that the government is intending to deliver within the 4-year mandate. still running down an economy they inherited to the extent that the economy appears to be not fit for purpose. So how do we draw the line between promises and working with something that is not fit for purpose?
Good afternoon to you and your viewers.
Right.
So thank you for your question. For every government to come into power, you need to come out with your manifesto. If you look at the NDC manifesto, even though they were aware, according to the president, of the challenge that he was coming to face, coming in, he realized that is even in a bad state than they thought. So it gives me an indication that they may try to implement their manifesto, but not fully as they have stated in the manifesto. They may have to go along in a certain way that it does not worsen the situation as he has mentioned. Listening to him and the finance minister today, I noticed that they are trying to be more disciplined, and that was a statement I heard from the finance minister. And the president also talked about the procurement issues.
Right.
These two, if if they keep committed to them, it may mean that not everything that they have stated in their manifesto that they can really achieve within the first 4 years. However, for every government, they may have to select 1 or 2 or 3 or maybe a maximum 4 items that they can do significantly to impact the citizenry and also help them to win the next election. So I go back to the address, presidential address by the president. He talked about some 4 pillars. So if you ask me as a finance and economist person,
right,
I would like to say that the most important thing he must focus on is how does he work on bringing inflation down? And give me some 2 minutes. Let me explain the issue.
Please go on.
The issue of exchange rate situations, everything is linked to how we manage our inflation. Historically, inflation is broken down into 2, demand pool and cost pool. Demand pool is the government expenditure. So what happened in our previous government, just after COVID, they wanted to expand the economy. So they started, whilst we were advising them to slow down their expenditure, they were spending. So Agenda 111 and all those things.
Right.
Those things that we were doing increase our debt. The worst of them is the cost pool inflation. Anytime your country is experiencing a cost pool inflation, you see 3 main things: high inflation, low growth, and high unemployment. So in the Ghana situation, that was really happened. So we caused demand pool from government point, which caused inflation to move up to 54% and started coming down.
Right.
And now we know that the high unemployment rate, which is a major thing in Ghana because of number, I think today they mentioned like 500,000 people coming out of school in a year.
Yes, and then the youth unemployment currently is about 2 million.
So I mentioned that every government must focus on one major thing. I've talked about inflation. The next thing that the government can focus on is their 24-hour economy. Because the 24-hour economy, when it comes in, will bring production up, but not government expenditure. It will create employment to increase employment, which will address the unemployment situation. And in that case, you see that your exchange rate become a little bit stable. The next question is, if you produce more, what do? Then they must focus on the export. So
right,
it's linked, but where they have to start addressing it from is, in my perspective, they must tackle the factors of inflation, especially the cost pool factors. The demand pool factors, they are using the monetary policy rule, which is that what we are seeing that indeed the treasury rates, everything is coming down. It will trickle down to cost of doing business. But the cost pool factor, which the government must really focus on and work, 24-hour economy, if they have said that is what they want to bring, we want to see it starting so that it will have a major impact in the economy.
But that obviously would depend because, I mean, government is not in the business of doing business. That's what we've been told. If 24-hour economy is to succeed, what government, ultimate, agenda in all of this is to create the enabling environment for businesses to take advantage of. I'm guessing that should be in. Now, here's the case that some sectors of the economy are struggling. I mean, this morning, for example, we've been told by the finance minister that all state-owned enterprises are running red. He took special mention of ECG, virtually running down the company because of the books, how it is looking. Cocoa Board, for example. In all of the government said that we're also looking to generate over 200 billion cedis in revenue. Are these achievable? And what can we do to make our SOEs more viable?
So in my governance class, I normally talked about people in government authority with discretion, and we wait for them to leave power before we bring in accountability. That is why we are seeing all these things. Accountability must start or go along with as the person is in power.
Right.
The figures we are hearing today, if we had KPIs set for them, we have gotten to this point. If you take a critical look, most of our government enterprises or these agencies, they work without KPIs that are known by Ghanaians. So performance-based appraisal, if the government can come in with something like that to make sure that you achieve your target and you get your bonus. If not, their discretionary ability, they are going to work in their personal interest and not the interest of Ghanaians. And most of the issues that we talk about, like the president example he cited in his address today, something that someone could have purchased from the direct source, he went through an intermediary. That was a discretionary. So if there was a KPI and say, give us profit and you get 10%, 8% or something, the person will not take that decision. So these are some of the things that I'm sure the finance ministry who's in charge of these entities may have to be thinking about it, changing the performance compensation package and coming into the business form. We call it the new public management approach.
But Prof, you can also rule out political interference, especially in the work of some of these SOEs.
I mean, it's true. It even starts from the appointment. People who have been appointed, whether they have the qualification, the capability, and the experience to manage them, are sometimes in question. So when you put such people in to manage these organizations, they seem not to know what to do, and they try to bring in other people who have their personal interest over the state interest. So these are some of the things that must be addressed. So it's early days here. The government he's still forming his government.
Right.
He's giving some positions to some people in his party, but I'm sure he must also be careful that he brings in people who have the experience, the capability, and then the know-how to be able to handle the organization. One last thing I want to talk about is the procurement issue.
Right.
It's a major problem for Ghana. Our procurement system must work well. If the finance minister said he wants to be disciplined, we want to see the gift mix platform working. Every budget item must go through that platform. If you don't have an allocated budget for it, the entity should not be allowed to go into that project. Most of the debt issues we are talking about, and from the data, about 60% of them didn't have budgetary items that should go through the gift mix. So some payments were made outside the system, and that is a major challenge. In the US, for instance, you hear of Trump talking about these issues, bureaucracy,
right,
and payment system. It's the same thing that we are having in Ghana, but in a different form. If you allow the system to work, and every expenditure item has a budget allocation, it will help us to be more disciplined. Then the finance indicators can know that I have this expenditure coming, I have to plan for it. I'll make sure that I have the revenue to pay. If not, we have to go and borrow somewhere and come and meet these expenditures.
Right. Professor, thank you so much. Let me bring in Prof. Nim. I also have Honorable Thomas Nyako on the line. He's a Deputy Finance Minister designate. Let me allow Prof. Nim his final talks on this matter. And I just want to ask you, now government is seeking to raise revenue. We are told that in the 2025 budget, the GRA, for example, or better still, revenue target will be set around 200 billion Ghana cedis. Government needs money to meet its obligation. Same government is also cutting down expenditure and will be doing away with some taxes they describe as nuisance, especially the e-levy and few other taxes. Can they still achieve the 200 billion Ghana cedis that they are targeting? Wouldn't that lead to imposition of additional tax, at least as we've been told by the minority this afternoon?
Yeah, thank you very much. My view is that if they stretch, they should be able to hit the target. As we all know, there are so many people operating in the informal sector which are not part of the tax, net. So this additional target should be able to aid or assist the GRA to devise strategy. And the good news is that a tax expert has now been appointed as the head of the GRA. They should be able to strategize. They should even in terms of the compliance mechanism that the finance minister indicated that they're going to work with the GRA to intensify compliance. That sensitization should be there. One of the things that they must avoid is aggressive approach in terms of attacking the existing taxpayers. They should be able to have that dialogue, that mutual and respectable means of communicating to taxpayers and begin to assure the people that, look, we are in a new era, resetting Ghana's economy, putting it on the path of growth and development. We need the taxes to be able to do that. We have a high debt stock that we're trying to manage. What it means is that we cannot go to the capital market within the next 2 years to borrow. We are relying solely on these domestic resources to be able to develop the economy. So sensitization across board is very important. And also they need to find a way not to overburden existing taxpayers. Rather, in an attempt to achieve the 2 billion, they need to, broaden the tax network. One of the things that we're not doing so well, and it has been stated in almost, successive budgets, has to do with the property tax. And my view, respectfully, is that people who own the kind of properties at East Legon Cantonment, Airport City, etc., they are political actors, not ordinary people like you and I. And that's the reason why mostly the government find it difficult in terms of the political will to collect property taxes. In other jurisdictions, Prof will attest to that, even in the United States,
right,
to own your own property, the tax liability that goes with it is very huge. And we have magnificent buildings and properties in Accra and elsewhere, significant. So if government should intensify even property tax, they should be able to roll in more in terms of tax revenue to support what they have on board. So my view, respectfully, is that as much as it's quite a very, huge tax for the GRA, if they are able to stretch and they are able to intensify and then properly apply the collection of the property tax, they should be able to hit the 2 billion.
I remember last year or 2 years ago, the MPP government started a process to begin to tax properties. I mean, there was a lot of media engagement, media sensitization on it. We are yet to see actualization of it. So maybe it is one thing that the NDC is considering. We'll put that to the Deputy Minister. But before you go, are you surprised that the MPP is not participating in this dialogue, Prof?
I'm not really surprised because there's a history to that. If you recall the Senchi consensus, same. And more importantly, the President's State of the Nation address appears to cast doubt on their performance. Also, I mean, that's the politics of the day. So some of us will have the view that definitely, but I would have preferred them participating and ask for a platform to contribute and also critique some of the government policies that they intend rolling. And then that's the way to develop the country, and that's the way to develop our governance structure. But of course, it's the politics of the day, so it's part of it. And then some of these things, we have to take it as it is.
Right, thank you so much, Prof. Enim, for your time this afternoon. Now that we've listened to the experts, let's listen to the politicians as well. And of course, also joining me is Thomas Nyakwampem, is a Deputy Finance Minister Designate. Honorable, you're welcome. How will you describe the opening ceremony of the dialogue today?
Thank you. The opening ceremony was fantastic. The President set the tone for the discussion, and I briefly participated in the meetings. I believe that the way it is going, by the close of day tomorrow, we will have a very good conclusion that will direct policy, that will make meaningful input in policies that will help all of us. I heard you asking the Prophet what he thinks about the MPP's decision not to participate.
Yes.
I think it was a very unfortunate one. I was optimistic. I was hoping to see them there, that they would deviate from their Senche consensus boycott. This time show some kind of love for country. But unfortunately, they haven't done that. But I have said earlier,
but did you invite
I don't think we should. Sorry?
I asked, did you invite them?
I'm very sure we invited them. I'm not part of the organizers, but I know for a fact that they were invited. And even on the platform when the president was presenting the SONA, he threw an open invitation to them and appealed to them to attend. So I was hoping that they would be there. But what I was saying is that I don't think we should give up on them yet, because what has motivated President Mahama in organizing this economic dialogue is to build consensus on the way forward. Because look, the president knows that he has a 4-year mandate. He knows that he will not contest again. But he is determined to reset our economy. The risk setting will be done. But if it is not sustained beyond his tenure, all the efforts will be an exercise in futility.
Right.
Since 1992, we have seen that NDC came, MPP succeeded, NDC came back. That has been the trend. It is possible for MPP to come back again and manage our economy, whether it will be in the next 60, 20, 30 years, it is possible they will come back again. But what happens if we do all the heavy lifting and put the economy on a trajectory for growth, for them to come and just change course and mess up everything? That will not be in the interest of anybody. That is why it is important that we all build consensus and agree on the way forward, so that regardless of who becomes the managers of the economy, there won't be marked deviation from what all of us have agreed that we should do to fix this economy. That is why it's a shame that they are not here. But like I said, when we agree with all these wonderful stakeholders who are participating, we should, beyond this, find a way to get the MPP on board and then everybody on board to see that we can carry every Ghanaian along.
The MPP say that the adjectives you are using to describe the economy is rather destroying it, especially when you are in charge. You are basically destroying your own economy. The words are not encouraging investor confidence in the economy. Do you agree?
What is more encouraging than President saying that notwithstanding all these challenges, I, President John Dramani Mahama, will fix the economy? He has given that assurance. And we know that when he says it, he delivers it. His finance minister is also on top of issues and is determined to follow through and make sure that we fix the economy. We cannot, in the interest of consensus, not give the true state of the economy. We need to get Ghanaians to appreciate where we are. It is the appreciation of where we are that will get people on board and say, okay, we are doing A, B, C, D because of where we are. So we cannot hide anything. It is important that we let every Ghanaian know. And in fact, I just got a copy of the press statement that they issued that I was going through. And I said, you are not denying the fact that you have taken inflation to 23.8%. You are only saying that, the fact that it is 23.8%, it is off the target by. So, I mean, did you listen to them? They are not ashamed of what they have done. And that is what, I mean, they need to explain to Ghanaians why they took us to these levels. Without that, and it is that shame, because of that shame, that they are not able to participate in the economic forum. And they are boycotting even orientation for MPs. I mean, I just can't understand it.
They raise issues with the cost. They raise issues with the cost of organizing that orientation when the country is struggling financially.
Look, last year or last 2 years, they wanted to spend close to twice that amount to send us to this hotel, something city.
Rock City. Rock City at Empraeso. Rock City at Empraeso.
Yes. So what is it that all of a sudden you appreciate? If there is anybody who is mindful of cutting costs, it is President John Dramani Mahama. This is the president who has reduced the number of ministers from 88 or so to 60. This is the president who has reduced the number of ministries from 30 to 23. And on the 11th of March, you will see the cut in the budget of the president. These are the real issues that we are talking about. So the president has demonstrated that, yes, he wants to cut costs because things are hard. Yes, every other institution, including Parliament, must also learn from what the president is doing so that everybody will cut our quota according to our size, because times are hard and things cannot be done in the way that we used to. So it is important that we all appreciate some of these.
So some few issues, I know that you are still putting things here and there ahead of the March 11 presentation, but there are a few issues. ECG, I'm wondering, what is the plan from government side to make ECG profit-making entity? Because quite clearly, and what we've been told by President Mahama, the finance minister, I mean, when he spoke about SOEs, he singled out ECG and Cocoa Board. ECG, what is wrong with ECG that must be fixed? And how are you going about it?
A lot of things are wrong with ECG. The losses are just too much. Apart from the losses, the inefficiencies in their operations is just mind-boggling. And the corruption, the procurement breaches. In fact, I heard the energy minister lamenting about an incident where $500,000 worth of goods were imported into the country by ECG. They failed to clear the goods, allow it to go to demurrage. Then it is auctioned for 100,000 cedis.
Yes.
Somebody buys it and turns around to sell it to the same ECG for $300,000. Today, President Mahama gave another example of procurement breaches, where we procured something on sole sourcing.
Right.
We did not go to the direct supplier of the product. We allowed somebody to get it on sole sourcing, goes to the supplier to buy it, does nothing, adds no value. And then just by buying and sending it to government to pay, makes 21 million. I mean, how? How can we allow these things to happen?
For ECG, for example, the interest is, according to the finance minister, ECG sales power and only able to recover 64% of the power sold. That's something.
That is why, I mean, the energy minister has hinted that we must have private sector involvement in the operations of ECG. This cannot be described as selling ECG. No, we would not want to sell ECG. But if private sector involvement will bring efficiency and will reduce the cost for everybody, it is important we do this.
But is it what?
The previous administration started this quarterly adjustment of tariffs.
Right.
Quarterly adjustment. Even when they are adjusting the tariff quarterly, the gap is even widening the more. And look, we are spending about 1.3 billion US dollars to cover the shortfall in the energy sector. Do you know what $1.3 billion can do?
A lot.
It can provide so many things, so many roads, so many schools. So we cannot continue along this trajectory. But you see, it is important. There is one group that is handling all these issues at the National Economic Forum. I'm interested in knowing what suggestions they will come up with. In addition to what the Minister for Energy has said, we need to put our heads together because we have all realized that keeping the lights on is costing the Ghanaian taxpayer so much because of the inefficiencies of ECG. That cannot be allowed to continue.
And I'm asking for you personally, is it a case of incompetence at the highest level of ECG? Is it the fact that it is genuine inefficiency in the system or political interference?
A combination of all. I won't rule out political interference. And the inefficiencies is something that everybody has identified. And so we need to fix the inefficiency. We need to minimize political interference in the management of our industry.
The other matter is the fact that, you admit, and the president make a definite statement, 500,000 Ghanaians are thrown into the job market every year. Now, the spaces to absorb them is so small. Government solution, one of them is a rolling out of the 24-hour economy. What will it take for it to be actualized? I don't think that it is something that should be an event. It's something that should be a continuous process. Indeed, what is being done now? Now you are relieving people of their posts because of the manner in which they were employed, and you got 500,000 more knocking at your doors.
Yes, you see, government alone implementing a 24-hour economy will not create enough jobs to absorb all these numbers. So yes, today I read that the publishing was the institution, Ghana Publishing Company or something,
right,
rolling out the 24-hour economy.
Right,
that is wonderful.
The government publishing house.
Yes, I heard Sam Okujeto Blapa talking about the passport office also operating 24 hours to reduce the number of days in getting passports for applicants and all that. These are wonderful ideas. So government institutions will lead the way. But broadly, government has we pledged that we are going to create the environment to allow the private sector to also operate 24-hour economy. So it is not only going to be by the government. How many people does the government employ? The majority will have to be employed by the private sector. So we will provide the infrastructure. And one important thing is power. So we provide power, and we have indicated that we will introduce the time of use billing process in billing for power, so that private sector who roll onto this 24-hour economy will benefit from that incentive. We have talked about enhancing security. So government will provide generally the enabling environment for the private sector to also get involved in this 24-hour economy. But also, as I said earlier, government institutions that can operate 24 hours will also start by doing so.
My final question before I let you go, because obviously tomorrow we'll get to know of the outcome of the dialogue and what government will intend to do about it. But the 2025 budget, that is coming up on the 11th of March, what are we to expect? Already the minority is saying that you intend to impose VAT on communication. Once you take steps to remove e-levy, with one hand, you will be imposing VAT on communication. I don't know whether it's something that we can go home with.
I don't know. I cannot confirm or deny anything that is coming in the budget, mainly because I'm not yet at the ministry. We just finished our vetting. Parliament is yet to approve us for the president to swear us in. So as to details about the budget, I'm unable to tell. But I can tell you for a fact that, as President Mahama said, and which has been reiterated by Dr. Toporsen, all the taxes that we have promised to remove will be removed. And we will plug the holes, we will enhance revenue generation by enhancing compliance. In fact, today, if you listen to Dr. Toporsen, he gave some hints about what is going to happen.
Right.
And one area is VAT. We say that our VAT gap is 61%. What that means is that we are collecting only 39% of our potential VAT revenue. This is a huge thing. The law is already there. What is left is for us to enhance compliance to rake in the revenue. That is what we are going to do. One of the technical people on your show, before I joined, I heard him talk about the GRA being headed by a tax expert now. Right. My brief conversation with him indicates that he's poised and he's going to get GRA to help us to rake in the revenue. Look, now we don't have access to the international bond market. We cannot borrow. So the only avenue for us is to cut expenditure and raise revenue. As a country, we have to realize that we must cut our coat according to our size. We cannot continue to spend the monies we don't have. And that is what this budget is going to start doing. That we are going to constrain expenditure, make sure that we cut our coat according to our size, put our economy on the
trajectory. You cannot deny or confirm that there will be announcement of new taxes.
No, I don't think we intend to bring new taxes. But like I said, you can't take my word for anything because I'm not at the ministry at the moment. But the Ghanaian will not be burdened. Look, if we take betting tax that we want to remove, see, we want to remove the 10% tax on betting winnings. But there is a 20% tax on the betting companies.
Right.
That one will not be touched. That one will not be touched. And our assessment indicates that the betting companies underdeclare the revenues that they receive. And so we are going to be aggressive to use technology to ensure that the full amount is accounted for so government can take what is due her. And so these are some of the ways that I know I'm confident we are going to use to rake in more revenue.
Adamo, as always, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Right, this is a pause here on Join. Let's take a short break and return with more on the probe. We're back and let's do with some other stories now. Now, civil works on 3 of the Agenda 111 health projects commissioned under former President Akufo-Addo are yet to be completed. The Health Minister, Governor Minta says civil works for all the facilities are below 95% complete, though facilities at Trede, Foricum and Hunter West districts were commissioned 2 days before the 2024 elections. There were no plans in place for handing over to the Ghana Health Service for operationalization. The Health Minister, who is touring some facilities, says contractors at the Trede facility alone are owed over 100 million cedis.
The place is still a construction site, as you have all witnessed, yet to be completed. You remember when His Excellency John Dramani Mahama appeared on the floor of the House during the State of the Nation address, he indicated forcefully that none of the Agenda 111 projects has been operationalized. This is one of the facilities that was commissioned. And so he has instructed me to inspect all the Agenda 111 projects and give him a blueprint as to how we can put them to good use. So we have come to inspect the Trede 1. As you have seen for yourself, the place is still under construction, and I am informed that informed that the outstanding debt, if you like, commitment, as we speak, is over 100 million Ghana cedis. So completion is one, operationalization is another, and even Paying for the work done is also another thing. You may complete a facility 100%. If you have not paid for it, you can't call it your facility. So, number one, it's not even the civil works have not been completed, as you have all seen. Not all equipment have been delivered and installed. The facility has not been operationalized, and there's no action plan to recruit workers, health professionals to start.
All right, we'll bring you more in subsequent bulletins. Now, to kickstart our Ghana Mom series, the reason why I'm in this for a Monday afternoon, we'll take you on an expedition to a breathtaking landscape in the Savannah region. The Mole National Park, the wildlife haven, is packed with the huge elephants, antelopes, baboons, and rare bird species. But beyond its incredible biodiversity, the park holds deep historical and cultural significance. This afternoon, we take you on a journey through Ghana's largest and oldest national park, showcasing its beauty, its conservation effort, and why it remains a must-visit destination for nature lovers. A piece by Martina Bugri.
The Mole National Park is home to Ghana's largest game reserve, arguably the reserve that has the largest natural animal inhabitants.
Welcome to the Mole National Park. In the Ghana Man series, we take a tour around the park to show you the beauty of the Mole National Park.
Established in 1958, it was named after the River Mole. A visitor to the park would definitely live there with fond memories and inspired. The park has over 60 mammals, among other animal species. Rakim Yusuf tells us about the park.
In summary of the park, we have 94 species of mammals, 33 reptiles, 9 amphibians, 350 bird species, and over 700 tree species.
The animals are welcoming, which offers tourists the opportunity to get up close with these animals.
Behind me is an elephant, one of the several animals you will find when you visit the Mole National Park. Friendly as they are, the more you can get closer to these animals.
Mole National Park, we have only the Savannah elephant. Scientific name is Lazadanta africana. They are bigger than the Asian elephant and that of the forest elephant. The second difference is that whether it is a male or female, they have the ivory or the tax. Asian and forest elephants is only the males that has the ivory. These are animal species that can stay 50 to 60 years before they die. Few instances, some exceed 70, maximum 75 years.
So what makes Mole the preferred destination for visitors? Patience Teteji shares her thoughts.
So big that it covers a land area of 4,577 square kilometers, which is very greater than almighty Greater Accra. Mole National Park is so unique in the sense that it has this variety of biodiversity in terms of flora and fauna. Talking about the flora aspect, you have diverse plant species moving for the diverse and distributed unevenly even in the park. So it makes Mole quite unique compared to other protected areas. Though we are networked one way or the other, and also it's interlinked with other cultural sites where you have ancient or archaeological aspects that falls within the park.
For those looking for a serene atmosphere, the park's motel is an ideal choice. Gordon Lau, the facility manager, highlights its uniqueness.
We are structured in a way that we are able to capture almost every packet. That is, we have different types of rooms. So depending on your packet, and you go in for that. So the experience here is actually different from the urban area, dining whilst there's wild animal around that harming you. People dine and then the elephant is very close to them. By the pool, the elephant is feeding on a flower or whatever. And that makes it so unique.
Whether you are a nature lover, wildlife enthusiast, or simply looking for a tranquil getaway, Mole National Park has something for everyone. For Joy News, Martina Bugri reporting.
Well, in Agaveji, one of the tidal waves affected communities in the Ketu South, families are being forced to exhume the graves of their loved ones as the relentless sea reclaim their sacred resting places. Now, heartbroken and desperate, they carry the remains of those they cherish, pleading for help before the waves erase what little they have. Now, this is a community fight, not just for their land, but for their history, dignity, and memories. Emmanuel Jivenu has more.
It's an emotional scene here at Agaveji. The final resting place for these loved ones is no more. One by one, graves are opened and bodies exhumed as the sea relentlessly claims what should be sacred ground. Ebenezer Asa is the assemblyman for Agaveji.
The sea have taken about 63 tons so far, and then the remaining bodies that my people get to, they have transferred them to other cemeteries.
The Agaveji community has been battling the rising tides for years. Now, the sea is evading cemeteries and washing away graves.
So where they have transferred those bodies to, if this sea defense project doesn't continue, and then we take the sea or we continue the sea defense war, those cemeteries too will be taken away by the tidal wave.
The coastal communities of Ketu South are under siege. In just 7 days, tides have eroded vast areas, displacing families and threatening their very existence. Director for Institute of Environmental and Sanitation Studies at the University of Ghana, Professor Kwesi Epieni Ado, is calling for the shoreline to be stabilized.
That would mean disastrous. We need to stabilize the shoreline. We could use a process called restraint, where we align rocks along the coast and push it into the water and stabilize the shoreline. Once we stabilize the shoreline, let's now put in some groins to trap sediment. And then as we trap sediment, let's now bring vegetation back into the system so that the system can naturally evolve. We don't have time on our side. We must stabilize the shoreline.
The community is calling for urgent attention. Their MP, Ablan Jifa Gomashi, assures the residents that the government is committed to finding a lasting solution.
His Excellency John Dramani Mahama hadn't gone home for 4 years. I am sure he would have continued that with the second phase. And I'm assuring them that they should have faith. Help is on the way.
But for these families, time is running out. As they carry the remains of their loved ones further inland, the fear remains. How long until the sea follows? Emmanuel Jivenu, Joy News, Agaveji, Volta region.
Well, the Volta Regional Minister James Gunu says that devastation caused by the coastal erosion in the southern part of the Volta region is a matter for national concern, calling for emergency intervention to curb the destruction and ensure the safety and well-being of residents in the affected communities. Now, speaking during a presentation of some relief items to the victims, he stated that government will prioritize the well-being of the people to mitigate the destruction caused by the sea.
Better understand the work.
Makafi Atai was born and raised up in the Agave community of the Ketu South municipality in the Volta region. Her home and survival are threatened by the devastations of coastal erosion, which continue to wash away her community. A recent incident left the community devastated as homes and cemeteries, among others, were affected. This is my father's house. I stayed here since infancy. The sea used to be some kilometers away, but in 2019, we started experiencing coastal erosions. We were at the roadside, far away from the sea, but the erosion had gotten to us. You see the sea hit the wall. It makes a loud noise, and then the wall collapses. It is having a psychological effect on us.
And before we go, in a rare move, illegal miners have blocked the river Ankobra at the separate points within the Pristia, Himan town, and Awudua, a small community in the western region, preventing it from flowing. Now, Joy News have confirmed the miners are now mining with excavated directly in Ankobra River. A Russ's side reports mining on Ankobra, which started over a year ago, has now turned the major water source into a stagnated pool. It's part of a special advisory team set up by the Minister for Lands and Natural Resources to investigate the extent of illegal mining across the country to inform policy direction.
To better understand the workings and impact of illegal mining activities, the Minister of Lands and Natural Resources set up this team of experts to embark on a fact-finding trip across the country. We made a stop at the estuary where the Ankobra joins the sea.
A green-looking Ankobra River. This is the estuary where the river Ankobra joins the sea. It has not been this green for a very long time, but it could be deceptive. We are here to tell you the story of a green Ankobra and probably why it is looking green, though what is making it milky brown is still happening across the length and breadth of this great resource. Come with me as we find out what could probably be a mirage.
We took a ride on the Ankobra from the estuary to gauge the mood of the river. At high tide, the sea has made tremendous gains into the Ankobra, spreading its green salty water to cover the polluted shade of the river.
How does it taste like?
It tastes like salty because the sea have entered the Ankobra, so it's salty, you cannot drink. But Ankobra itself is not salty.
But about 40 minutes into our boat ride, the color starts to change. At Eshiemu, we come across mining activities inches away from the Ankobra, violating government's buffer zone policies. This man, who identifies himself as Lopez, showed us documents covering his concession but admits the illegalities on the grounds. The real color of the Ankobra is now visible from here. At Awudua, close to Pristia, we made a shocking discovery. The Ankobra has been blocked and contained for mining purposes.
And those of you who have been contemplating and praising the new color of the Ankobra, this is the real color of the river Ankobra. As you can see, this is a mining hub within the river itself. So the river has been blocked, redirected, and you can see that it's not really flowing well. And it's camped here at Awudua.
Even more shocking is the complete blockade of the river at Pristia Himan, close to the bridge. The illegal miners have separated the river and built an embankment to prevent the river from flowing. They are now mining directly in the basin of the stagnated Ankobra River.
What we have found here at Prestea Heman is what can be described as total madness. This is the Ankobra River, and it will shock you to know that illegal miners, nature criminals, have been able to block a major river like the Ankobra, and so you can see the blockade over there. They've blocked entirely the river. So the flow from upstream has been blocked here, as you can see. And then they are mining in the basin itself. That is what we are seeing here. And it is shocking to know that an entire community superintended over this, supported it with the authorities, the chiefs and people supporting the blockade of a major river like the Ankobra for illegal mining purposes.
The river is now a stagnated brown pool beneath the Prestea Heman Bridge.
For these people, their survival depends on a clean Ankobra which is not polluting the sea. For the local economy to thrive and for their survival to be assured, government needs to work on a pollution-free Ankobra. Reporting for Joy News, Erastus Asaredonko, Ankobra Town, Western Region.
And here, for more stories, log on to our website, myjoyonline.com, for more stories. And of course, we've got more on the National Economic Dialogue, on Top Story News, and of course, Joy News. Whatever you are up to in the hours ahead, I hope it's profitable. My name is Elton Brobe. See you same time tomorrow as we celebrate another Ghana month. Enjoy your evening.